We just went over this. Uh, Janic, yeah?
Janic. Yeah.
Janic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming here on the Creative Kind podcast today. It's absolute pleasure to be speaking with you. We've known each other for a few years now, several years. We met at Pachaccha. Pachaccha.
People are still calling it all different things.
Yeah, it's fine. It means chit chat in Japanese. I know that much.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I've done a few of these. You and Andrew at the time were running these. And yeah, it was an awesome opportunity for people that don't know. Yeah. You have 7 minutes, 40 seconds to be precise, 20 images, 20 slides, no text. To the timer, like don't go over. So that was a super cool event, and we'll dive into that in a bit. But you also do, everything with Ripple Leadership, and so I want you to talk to me about the creative venture that you have, and what are you up to right now? What does a day in your life look like? Let's start there.
Cool. Thanks, Alex, for this opportunity. Really great to chat with you and to connect again. I call myself a creative curator. So basically everything that I do regarding the programs and resources I create through Ripple Effect Leadership, which is my business that I'm currently building, kind of rebuilding and relaunching. And I'm the founder of Ripple Effect Leadership. And really the focus is building in creative leadership and personal leadership into people's lives, and to remind people that leadership doesn't mean having a big title, doesn't mean hierarchy within an organization, and that it's all about leading ourselves first. So I think that up until recently, I wasn't really sure where I was going to go with Ripple Effect Leadership, but creativity kept popping up because it's such a part of my life, my personal life, as well as my professional life, that I wanted to take a different spin on leadership and to remind people that building creativity into leadership as well is really, really important. So I'm building an online course right now called Leader Within. Well, still playing around with the title, decision fatigue as an entrepreneur it's quite real, which I'm sure you can relate to. But I'm building an online personal leadership course, which will build a lot of creativity into it and remind people that different ways of how we can lead ourselves better. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. And it's, so I've signed up for the course. I'll definitely include a link here in the podcast after. It's something that we connected with recently when we were talking about having you on the show. And so, we'll get into that, but I want to speak a bit more about your business and about the idea of a leadership. I think it's something that, people can sometimes take for granted if you're not in a management position. You don't realize, you're like, well, I'm not a leader. I'm an intern or whatever, right? But there's leadership values that kind of seep through everything, right? Like you can still be a leader in a meeting. You can, right? Like you can still carry that, and that again comes into the idea of the ripple effect, right?
Yeah.
Like, right. Like a leader can kind of perpetrate, I don't know what I'm trying to say there, but leadership is so important. So talk to me about why leadership has been such an anchor to you throughout, your professional journey. And why do you think that's so important today?
Yeah, for sure. I actually had an aha moment a few years ago when I was finishing up my Master's of Leadership. I did that through Royal Roads University in Victoria. I worked full time while doing the program. But when I was entering into the program, I didn't have a traditional leadership title. I didn't think I should be there because I didn't have a leadership title. And it turned out that a lot of people who were taking the program felt the same way, even people with traditional leadership titles. So I thought that was really interesting.
Can I ask you something here? Yeah. What does that mean, a traditional leadership title?
Like CEO, director, manager, that type of those types of titles. And I realized, and at first when I started when I first started the program, I thought I wanted to be a CEO of a nonprofit, because I worked for a nonprofit many, many years. But then halfway through the program, I realized I have no desire to manage people in that capacity. But I do a lot of events and other things where I get to manage people and manage programs. And you mentioned values earlier, and that was actually a big part of the process for me when I was doing the program, because I actually did a leadership project where we focused on core values and how to live those core values. And that is literally the essence of ripple effect leadership as well. The metaphor I used, it is the metaphor I used for my big organizational leadership project, in that if we don't live our core values, if we don't lead ourselves better, if we don't manage our time better, if we don't show up for our colleagues, there is a ripple effect through the team, through the organization. So that ripple effect can be either positive or it can be negative. And that's actually how I decided on my company name. Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah. And it makes me think of something that I spoke about with a mentor of mine the other day. And it's about, I forget the exact term, you may have heard of it, but it's like leadership and knowing leadership traits. And knowing that the leadership stages in terms of the tribe, like, are you like a tier 1 tribe, a tier 2 tribe, a tier 3 tribe? Have you heard of this idea before, this kind of synonym?
I've heard of it before. I don't know a lot about it, but I have heard about it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's I'm trying to bring it up here. I'm unfortunately not Joe Rogan. I don't have a guy who can, Mike, bring up the slides.
It's all good.
Right? Yeah, the 5 stages of tribal culture. That's what it's called.
Okay.
So it's interesting. It's like, because I was giving an example about how I have people now, like I have some interns who work underneath me with my company. And how, I was having a challenge with one of them. We were trying to solve something. And he's like, oh, like, you're demonstrating like stage 4 tribal leadership. And I was like, oh, like, what does that mean? And he broke it all down. But it's interesting for me to hear from you that even though, I would have thought that maybe like managing people would actually be something that you'd be all about. But you're saying, no, like, you actually like to help explain to people how to manage people.
How to manage themselves. Really. Yeah. So personal leadership is all about managing ourselves, right? So managing our calendars, managing our inbox, managing our time with getting projects done, especially when we're working with other people, let's say. So, if something doesn't get done, once again, there's that ripple effect throughout the rest of the team. And really, manage the way we communicate with each other as well. And also reminding ourselves that leadership is a lifelong practice and nobody's perfect at it. Right? Even the best CEOs in the world have bad days or leave conversations thinking, oh, that didn't go very well. And that's okay. So I want to remind people that self-reflection is really part of personal leadership as well. And I just don't think that a lot of organizations talk about it enough. Right? There's just this assumption that people know how to lead themselves well. Right? Or encouraging people to ask for help when they need it, or to check in with each other when we're working on projects together. So there's definitely lots of different aspects to it, but it's the course that I'm building is really a reminder to people that we're all human. We can all lead ourselves, and we can all lead ourselves better. And ultimately, I want to build a community of practice, right? I want to build a community of practice where people can support each other through tough situations at work. Maybe they have to have a crucial conversation with somebody and they don't know how to approach it. So I'm not suggesting I'm a coach, not a coach at all. I don't have coaching certification. I would consider myself more of a mentor and an educator, and really wanting to bring people together under kind of that same umbrella of practicing personal leadership and creative leadership and thinking about core values as the foundation. So helping people figure out what their core values are, how to live those core values, and if they're with an organization, how to live those core values or align them with their own personal core values as well.
And what would you say is one of the top challenge that you've seen or heard of that people face when it comes to mastering that personal leadership?
Not doing any self-reflection. I think that's the biggest challenge. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of, and that was a concept that I learned when I was doing my master's of leadership. I hadn't really thought about it, never really incorporated it into my leadership practice. And that's the thing. I want to teach people and provide tools and resources to people to help them build it into their leadership toolbox So there's a lot of great theories out there. There's a lot of great programs out there. But once again, we have to always be building it into our practice and to build in self-reflection into our practice. So once again, like asking ourselves at the end of every week, how did I compose myself this week? Did I live my core values? Or when you leave a meeting that would maybe had a really tough conversation in it, how did I lead myself during that conversation? Could I have done better? So yeah, just reminding people that it's okay to go through that process, and that it's not just, once again, people with those traditional leadership titles who should build it into their practice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so true, right? Like taking that time to reflect on the good and the bad.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people like to reflect on the good. They like to pat themselves on the back. They like to sleep in. They think they work hard. But, we block out the things that went bad a lot of the time, right? We try to ignore our faults and praise our, we don't post our failures on social. We post our highlights.
Yeah. And, I've kind of reflected recently, like over the years, even, those tough conversations I have had with colleagues in the past, or conflict that might happen between ourselves and somebody else within an organization or within a team. We can build so much trust and respect for each other when we own up to our own crap, so to speak, right? It's like, hey, I'm sorry for XYZ, or, that didn't go as planned. And it builds respect and trust between you and that other colleague, or you and that other person, because it reminds them as well that it's okay to make mistakes, and that we're all human, and that we're here to support each other.
Yeah, no, it's so good. So powerful. It's something that I think everyone needs to be putting into practice.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I want to talk about your course now. So how does that look in terms of the content and the value that you plan to add? Is it going to be like workbooks? Is it going to be videos? Kind of what's your like high level structure for it?
Sure. And maybe I'll back it up a second, Alex, and tell you how I pivoted at the beginning of the pandemic to think about this course. So before the pandemic, I was offering workshops in person for organizations, for teams, or I would be invited to present at conferences. So my goal last year was to do more and more of that, of course. And then the whole world shut down. And although I was offering some of my workshops virtually, there was a lot of organizations that just didn't have the capacity to do more virtual stuff online, right? And so at that time, and so now we're seeing more and more organizations that are hiring, consultants and leadership consultants to do more virtual stuff. But it got me thinking, I had been kind of beta testing some of the topics I was presenting in person in these workshops. And so I thought, well, what would happen if I built this into a course, right? So that's what I've been working on the last few months. An online course for individuals that it's really professional development. It's just a different take on professional development. It'll be a self-guided course. I'm not sure how long it's going to take people, but it'll probably hover around between 4 and 8 hours of their time. And it'll be an opportunity for people to figure out what their core values are. So there's going to be a variety of questions that I bring people through, different activities, different homework. And the idea, I was talking about the community of practice before, is that anybody who signs up for the course will have access to a private Facebook group. So within that private Facebook group, I'll post extra videos, extra webinars, extra content that people won't see on my social media or otherwise. And so, yeah, I'm going to build videos within the course. There'll be some written content. There'll be different activities. But once again, it'll be a self-guided kind of resource for people.
Interesting. Yeah.
I'm excited.
It's that's cool that's kind of the transition that you're taking to move more to the online course, to have that individual paced content. And that's cool as well that you're doing that you're building out the community group. So, and I think that's like a really integral part of courses now. Like everyone has that, like that hyper community. And it's like for me in my online course, I actually don't plan to build that out with it. I think it will
Sure.
come in time. But I like that, from the get-go, you're acknowledging that that's important, and
Yeah.
that's cool that you're going to have almost like a Patreon, right? Like you have that
Yeah.
exclusivity
Yeah.
to be part of it.
Yeah, exactly. And, I want people to feel comfortable to, provide examples of maybe some challenges they're having at their work, and allowing the community within that group, to help each other out as well. Because once again, I don't presume that I'm not a coach. I'm not looking to coach people one-on-one necessarily. But I want to offer resources and tools to people to, just help them along their practice, their leadership practice, for sure.
Yeah.
And because creativity is one of my top core values, there'll be a lot of like creative activities. And as you can see, I need color in my life. For those of you on video, you can see behind me that I have I have a gallery wall. So, just building different types of creative activities into the course is going to be fun. It's going to be fun for people. And, you don't get that a lot in leadership training, I think. I mean, fun can be built in sometimes, but sometimes people think leadership is very straight and narrow, and it's got to be a certain way. And I just want to remind people that let's just have a little bit of fun as well, right? Let's not take it too seriously, but at the same time, I guess be serious about leading ourselves.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
No, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
We want to make sure that the course is engaging, right? Like you want to see people succeed.
Yeah.
It's something even that my mentor from Pachaccha said, is he's like, at some point, take the knowledge that you're getting in these courses and act on it. Like actually, because the people who are giving you these courses don't want you to just do it or half-ass it.
Exactly.
What I mean? They want you to actually do the whole thing, do the workbooks, take the time, take it seriously, and come back and give them results. That's going to be your biggest asset, is having those testimonials from people, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think I finished my thought earlier, but when I was saying I had that aha moment when I was at Royal Roads doing the program, one of my professors at the time, we had to write like a personal leadership challenge leading up to starting the program, a personal / professional leadership challenge. And after she read my challenge, I can't really get into what that was because it was pretty intense. She went through everybody's essays, and then the first time she met us in person, she gave us each a Post-it note with a question related specifically to our personal or professional challenge. And the Post-it note said, Janic, where do you get your source of power? And my first reaction was, I don't have any power at work. I don't have a leadership title. And then it was like 4 days later, I bumped into my professor again on campus at Royal Roads. And I'm like, oh, the power's within me. Like, it was just like, seemed so simple. But when you're kind of like in the zone and not really self-reflecting, I wasn't ready to hear that. And then finally I was like, oh, this is what personal leadership is about. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's really powerful. And I think that like that to me is such a mindset shift, right? Is to have that switch when you realize that you are the driver of what happens in your life.
Yeah.
Obviously, there are things that are, of course, out of our control, but at the end of the day, like, we control how we react to what happens. And your reaction is, your reaction has that ripple effect. That will then, do you wake up with, a frown? Do you wake up with a smile? How are you interacting with other people? How does that behavior, essentially leave you and affect others, whether it's for the better or for the worse?
Absolutely. Yeah.
No, it's and I like how in your course really assessing the values. It's something that I think people should do more often than we honestly do, right? And it's something that I did near the end of 2020, but it's something, like, how often would you say, we talked earlier, like once a week, really reflect reflect on, how you did, how you're feeling, things like this.
Mm-hmm.
But how often would you say that like we should be diving deeper, like into our values, into our goals? Is that an annual thing? Is that a quarterly thing? Is that even more frequently? Is
Yeah,
that a
I would say
daily?
daily for sure. I mean, yeah, I guess it depends on what people's capacity is. You could do it daily, weekly, quarterly. For me personally, I'm kind of a weekly person, where I'm trying to just batch social media weekly, look at my calendar on a weekly basis, try not to look too far ahead. But yeah, I think that, and regarding core values, I think that it's important to reassess your core values at certain stages of your career as well, right? My core values now are not necessarily the same ones that I had 5 years ago or 10 years ago, right? My top core values right now are creativity, fun, collaboration, and authenticity. So those are the 4 values that I try to incorporate into the work that I do through Ripple Effect Leadership, into the workshops that I build, into the programs that I create, into the events like Pachaccha that I host, that I facilitate. And they're just all really natural core values for me, and that's why it was easy for me to kind of figure that out and to drill down. So yeah, and I think that, if people think that they have the same core values from 10 years ago, just to reassess. Maybe your core values have changed because we've all changed as people over time through our careers and our experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great question. What are your top 4 core values right now?
Yeah.
I think.
So what are yours?
I know. I was thinking about it there. I was trying to pay attention because you're dropping so much knowledge, but also in my mind, I was like,
so I'll repeat, my top 4 are creativity,
okay,
fun, collaboration, and authenticity. And there's like 100 different types of core values, right? So it's hard to just drill down in the moment. But like one of the questions
that's good though.
Yeah,
to drill down in the moment.
Yeah, it's hard, right?
So it's real though, right? You don't want to over reflect it. So you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Go.
I would say creativity.
Yeah.
Authenticity. Friendship.
Great.
And trustworthiness.
That's great. Those are great core values. And knowing what I know of you from the last 4 years that I've known you, I would say that definitely aligns with your personality and your character for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I would say the same for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
This is awesome. So we tapped on something. We've been getting super deep. So I want to let's take a break and let's come back a bit more tactical. We talked about batch editing. We're talking about it right at the beginning of the episode here. What is social media is hard. Building a business and being present, and when you're an entrepreneur, there's so much you got to keep in mind. And dude,
seriously, I said to a friend just today, the juggle is real, right? Oh. The juggle, not just the struggle, the juggle is real. I recently started batching my social media. Mm-hmm. The website that I love personally is called Buffer. So I set up my social media for Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. I'm starting to do it on Sundays for like the following 8 days. I discovered, so to speak, Buffer back in December, and I thought it would be a really good idea to like batch all of January in like 2 days, and that totally burnt me out. So I'm like, we'll never do that again. But yeah, batching I think is really, really important for entrepreneurs, whether it's like batching content for blogs, for social media, for you, it'd be video editing and interviews, right? Mm-hmm. And setting specific times of the week to batch. I mean, or certain time frames, right, within the week to batch as much as possible. So when you're batching, what are you talking, like a couple of hours or an entire day for the work that you're doing?
Yeah. So for season 3 of the podcast right now with my apprentices, I'm working on having them reach out to guests. I've already identified these guests, gotten their emails. Now it's just kind of like a template email, like the links, fill this out, yada, yada. And I'm scheduling to get the first 15 to 20 episodes of the podcast done in the first 2 weeks of April.
Okay.
So essentially doing like 4 months of podcast. It's going to be busy. First 2 weeks of April are going to be hectic. Yeah. But in doing that, like I will just be so ahead of the game. And so I have a podcast mentor. It's a guy down in LA. Shouts out to Billy. One of the things he was saying to me, he actually had COVID. And I was like, I hope everything's okay. And he's like, yeah. He was like, I was out for like a few weeks. He's like, so I'm very thankful that I had batched and had everything lined up.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had my assistant help like just publish it because I was just like bedridden. But, you know, I would be missing those episodes, right? And when I started this podcast, I was doing week to week, like interviewing someone on like the Thursday and trying to get it out for the next week, and then life would come up or business would come up.
Yeah.
Right. So it's hard, but yeah. So batching and just, I mean, I think even more important than batching is the value of planning ahead.
Yes.
Right. Because then
Totally.
you're not posting just on the fly.
Well, that's the thing, right? You wake up in the morning, you're like, what am I going to post on social media today? No, I don't have to worry about that anymore. And I actually love the process of batching for social media. I actually like it. I like that process. I'm obsessed with Canva, which I think a lot of people are right now, which is like this graphic design program for social media. But you mentioned the word template. I think that that's really important for us as well. The more that we do these types of projects, templating lists, right? So that processes, exactly. And it's so important. And that's something that I naturally do anyway, because of the work I've done for, you know, for my full-time work back in the day. You know, I used to do a lot of templates for different events and different programs and resources. So that comes naturally to me now, but I don't think it comes naturally to a lot of people. I think it's good practice for sure as an entrepreneur. Good practice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's incredibly important that we take that time to plan things out and to have a process and strategy. What are your thoughts on consistency? You know, it's one thing that a friend of mine, kind of like a coach for a little bit there, she moved on, just a new position, but she's like, don't even post every day.
Yeah.
Like you'll get viewer burnout. And, you know, I've heard mixed messages on that, right? Like some, you know, the juggernauts are like, you need to be posting 4 times a day. And then there's people like this who are like, no, like actually like post, you know, like once every other day, you know, like what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely think consistency is important, but not to burn ourselves out. That's why I like the Buffer app because, and this is not an ad for them, I'm not sponsored by them, but I like them because I like that platform because it actually suggests the different times to post on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn based on your
following and
stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But just because it suggests 4 times a day on Instagram, I just can't. I mean, I need to spread out, the content, right?
Totally.
What was your question? Sorry.
Yeah, it was just about like, what do you think is like a good frequency of posting?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends. I mean, for me, I'm still working full time while building Ripple Effect leadership. So I'm just trying to manage my energy as well.
Yeah.
So I think it just depends on the person, really. But for me, Instagram is my number one social media platform. So I try to post every day. But once again, batching helps me do that and helps with engagement with my community and with my followers. But it's hard, you know, as I'm sure you know, we put a lot of time and energy into posting things and then nobody responds.
Yeah.
Or shares. You know, we get lots of likes, which is great. But you know, it's hard to get people just to engage sometimes in dialogue. But I think that will come with time for sure and experience.
Yeah, I think like an important thing is just like by showing up and by being, you know, if you're going to post once a week, that's fine, but make sure you post that time once a week, right? Like, or if you're going to start posting once a day, then maintain it, because if you're going from once a day and then you're going for once a week, right? Like if you're that sporadic, it actually will work against you, right? So pick a schedule and stick with that schedule.
Yeah, for sure. And what I post on Instagram is different than what I'm going to post on LinkedIn as well. I mean, I post some of the same content, but I try to change it up sometimes or use different images but it's, man, like I said, the juggle is real.
Yeah.
It's a challenge.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I mean, for me, it's more the tone. Like it's still the same content, but the copy, or like, you know, so Instagram's me, but then, I'm going to change that up on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, make it more kind of a bit more corporate-y. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So kind of coming close to wrapping things up here, if people want to connect with you, if they want to learn about your upcoming course,
Yep.
what's the best way for them to reach out to you, follow you on Instagram? You mentioned that's where you're most active.
Yeah.
What's your handles there, and how
For
can they
sure.
find you on LinkedIn too?
For sure. Thanks. Instagram and Facebook is and LinkedIn is at Ripple Effect Leadership. And my website is rippleeffectleadership.ca. And right now there's an email list that people can sign up for my course that I'll be launching. My goal is to start beta testing my course in early April, but we'll see. We'll see.
That's my goal too.
That's the goal. That's the goal. So yeah, people can sign up for an email list so that they can stay up to date for when I do launch that course. I have a couple of really fun, free, creative resources that people can sign up for as well. One is called 100 check-in questions and checkout questions. So for people who facilitate meetings and workshops, this is a really great resource. I've put together 100 check-in questions for people they can download for free. I also have a fun free guide to encourage people to create spaces, gallery walls like this, creative workspaces as well. So different steps to set up a creative workspace at home specifically. And then there's a free coloring sheet as well, because I'm all about the coloring. Nice. And there'll be plenty more of that down the road as well. So yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so one thing we've alluded to it, I want to give this a bit of time if you have time.
Yeah.
But Pachaccha, I know that you
Pachaccha.
Pachaccha. Oh, it's the word.
Pachaccha. People call it Machu Picchu, Pikachu.
Machu Picchu. No, that's our ones I haven't heard. This is spelled, I know how it's spelled. Pechakkucha. Check it out.
Yeah, it looks like Pachaccha, which is what I was calling it for a long time until the organizers in Tokyo sent me a video once. They're like, Pachaccha. I'm like, oh,
Pachaccha.
Saying along. Right. Yeah. Let's talk about Pachaccha for a second. So I actually.
When's the next one coming up? Because it's virtual.
Yeah, I'm doing the first virtual Pachaccha event. So it's a London, Ontario base typically, but virtually it'll be obviously international if people want to sign in. We're going to do it on April 28th. And I wanted to offer the Pachaccha platform to our BIPOC community, to our Black, Indigenous, and people of color community as an opportunity to elevate their voices. So we're calling it Pachaccha Night, London, Ontario, Melanated and Unmuted. And we have 8 amazing presenters from the area who are going to be talking about their lived experiences. I'm just starting to launch it this week.
Amazing.
Yeah, so on Facebook, people can look up Pachaccha, London, Ontario, and they can find the event page. And yeah, it's going to be really great. So we're really excited. I wasn't sure that I would ever do a virtual Pachaccha, but I wanted to, with everything going on in the world and with social justice and racial justice, I really wanted to just offer the platform as an opportunity for people to tell their stories and to share. Yeah.
I can't wait to hear more. I know one of the guests, I'm not sure if it's public yet.
It is.
Okay. Yeah. So Sunday, Ajak, he was a guest on The Creative Kind. You kind of reached out. We got that set up. So he's going to be presenting.
Yeah. And also Zara Habib, who I believe has been a past guest as well for you, right?
She has been, yeah, nice. Yeah. So she's doing a presentation and a talk herself, yeah. Because I know normally she does like DJing events. So Sunday, it's such a good match. Sunday
was all over it. I was so happy about it. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That makes my heart glow.
Good.
Yeah, that's so super cool. And so you're saying on Facebook, check it out. Check out the website. Watch other talks. So you can hear my talks. I've done 3 of them, talked about my experience with elephants. That's a whole that rabbit hole. We won't go there. Let's give that some time to plug. Sure. Is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you maybe wanted to talk about that was kind of on your mind coming into this interview?
No, I think we hit everything other than, for any other entrepreneurs out there, it's all about perseverance, man. What I launched 4 years ago for Ripple Effect Leadership is completely different than what I'm doing now. I feel like I finally am finding my niche of really incorporating personal and creative leadership into my business. And I feel like not many other leadership consultants are doing that. So, I'm trying to build something unique, and just hopefully I just want to help people. I want to help people to look at leadership in a different light, in a different lens, different perspective, and build that community of practice.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's cool to hear that, 4 years ago it was totally different, right? But you've beat the odds. You're still going. You still have the company, and you're like me. You're doing it outside the 9 to 5. So I respect the grind.
Yeah,
man. So last question here. What does creativity mean to you?
Oh my goodness. I love the process of creativity. I love the trial and error of creativity. And, it's about turning an idea into reality for me. Yeah. Regardless of what that idea is, whether it's an event, a product, a resource, whatever the case may be. Yeah.
Awesome. Lovely way to end it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for coming in, for sharing. I just want to acknowledge you and all the work that you're doing with Ripple Effect Leadership.
Thank
you. Janic, thank you so much for sharing your insights with me. As always, it's always a pleasure whenever we get to meet, and hopefully we get to meet again. Remind me again, Pachaccha, April 28th, you said?
April 28th will be the first Pachaccha London, Ontario virtual event. Yeah.
Perfect. So don't miss that, people. If you're listening in, put it in your calendars. That's going to be a really powerful event.
Yeah. Thanks, Alex, for the opportunity to chat. Good to see you.
Good to see you.